what I would assume like a marriage, right? Like you don't go into it going like, I'm so excited to be married to this person for 1 year. Like that's not really the mindset we go into it. So, but maybe when you first start dating someone, you do. So that's kind of how I like parallel it is like when you first are in the courting phase of Beachbody, which is like every new coach goes through that, you're still kind of trying it on for size. And I'm assuming you're have earned this retreat and you're at the point in your business that you've kind of all turned that corner and you know, like, okay, this fits. But just like a marriage, just like a long-term relationship, it's freaking hard. I just finished my first year of marriage, and it's hard. Like I'm glad that I did it, but it's like it doesn't make it easy all the time. And so, being an entrepreneur, owning your own business, building a Beachbody business, health and fitness. Like if it was easy, we wouldn't have a job, right? Like if it was easy, no gyms would stay in business. And I think that it's the same thing too. But I know that for so many of us, we go into it thinking like, this should be easier, or this is easier for her than it is for me. Therefore, that must mean all these things about myself, right? Have you guys ever kind of got stuck in that thinking where you're like, why is this so hard? Or why is that, you know, all of that stuff. And we get in our own head. It's totally a mindset thing. It's totally like fixable, A, and PD is your best friend, B. And I'm not that kind of coach that's going to be like, do more PD if you're struggling. I mean, I think we all know we need to do it, but it's more of like a picture of what you want for your life. And that isn't necessarily, that can be PD related, but really it's like, if it's something as small as dance lessons for your child. For me, it was, I just wanted to stop waiting tables. So in a nutshell, I went to grad school. I have my master's in school counseling. I was a school counselor for 12 years. And I waited tables on the side, partly because I like waiting tables. I still think it would be a fun side job to have because I enjoy it and I like cash and I'm good at it. But what it quickly became after, you know, almost 20 years in the industry, I made more waiting tables hourly than I did as a school counselor. And so which is just wrong, like, but that's a whole nother talk. But, what became fun money, what was fun money so that I could travel in the summers or I could go do fun things in the holidays, became like this lifeline for me because my income as a counselor took a hit. I moved to Portland, which was more expensive. You know, like things happen. I was never married, but I had a longtime partner and like we broke up. So I was just this single living in Portland and all of a sudden because of public school, my income actually went down a little bit for 3 full years every year. And so like what became this extra exhale, like flex money became like, okay, this is how I'm paying my bills right now. And that becomes like a vice grip around your neck. If you've ever had that point where you're like, okay, what bill can I pay late this month? Right? Which one will I not get in the most trouble for? Just paying the bare minimum, or like, can I get a forbearance, please? And like stop. And so those were my monthly conversations with myself and my bank account and the debtors. And I had a lot of debt. And so that became this like grip around my neck. I was anxious. I was struggling with my own mental health at that point because I was just really stressed out all the time. I was working 80 to 90 hours a week and I was sick all the time as a result. I also wasn't eating well and I was a fitnessy person. I had gotten my yoga cert and my spin cert years before, but again, I made more money waiting tables hourly than and I didn't have extra 80 hours a week. Plus I didn't have like extra time to go punch a clock somewhere else. And so going and working for basically peanuts at a gym didn't make sense to me, but I still had that desire. And so all of that to say, like, I kind of had that breaking point. I think we all kind of maybe get to that breaking point where we're like, something's got to give. And for me, it was just like starting a new school year. It ended up being the last school year that I had. But just the weight of it all rushing back. So I'm like pulling out my school clothes, starting to think about what my first week back would look like. And like, it was like just this tidal wave like hit me of all of it, like the schedule, the exhaustion, the people that like the systems and situations I didn't like, you know, like, 'cause I had a harder school And so, like the negative toxic energy around my school, like it all just kind of wave, and like ended up like having a full-on panic attack, bottom, like floor of my closet. And I just kind of finally like surrendered control to saying like, I almost obviously like this isn't working. I'm working harder isn't working. Adding more jobs isn't working. Like, you know, just whatever, all the stuff I'm trying to control. Jesse, we might be the same person. I don't know, but let's just say, yeah. And so, like, it's not working. And I just kind of had to like, and whether you believe in God or not, I just had to like give it up to him and do like, show me a sign, like something's got to give. It's kind of like that Carrie Underwood song, like Jesus take the wheel, right? And so I had been following a girlfriend of mine. I don't want to spend too much time on my story, but like a girlfriend of mine I waited tables with, had started coaching, and I didn't know what she was doing necessarily, but I saw her being really happy, getting post baby body, working from home. And she wasn't a really happy person to say. That doesn't sound nice. I don't mean it to be like, she was like becoming this like person that she was different from who she was, like happier and seemed more positive, a lot friendlier. And she was working from home, which caught my attention in fitness and health world, which she wasn't like that person either. So I was like, okay, if she can do this, like, what is she doing? And so she posted her first like call to action, like a help wanted post. And again, this was like over 5 years ago now. It was August of 2013. And I just, without even hesitating, I wrote her. I was like, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm in. Like, tell me about it. And she came over and we chatted, and I had no idea what Beachbody was. I did not like home fitness. I had no desire to drink a shake, but there was something about it. I was like, but I need something. Like I said, God, give me a sign. You gave me a sign. I'm not going to like turn my nose up at it. But then I struggled. Like, I hid my new coach welcome post because I didn't want anyone to know. And I didn't know like how to talk to people online. I didn't know social media. Like, I thought I was working really hard, but really I wasn't. I just thought, you know, just me looking at Facebook, looking at files in the team pages, that was work, right? So I wasn't. But it was my first Super Saturday that was my big game changer. I saw the bigger picture. I got to see other coaches, hear their stories. Amy Silverman was leading that Super Saturday in Portland because she was living there at the time still. And I identified with like every story that was told. I was like, I see myself in that. I identify with that. And I went into that first Super Saturday going, I just don't know that I fit into this world, right? I don't know if you've ever had that feeling where you're like, I don't know if this is going to be something I can fit myself into. I don't look like this person. I don't have a life like this person. I can't tell my story like this person. And it was all fear. It was all limiting beliefs. It was all just me in my own way. But sometimes we need somebody to shine the spotlight on that, to show like, hey, you are the one in your own way. And I definitely don't like sucking at things. That's part of my DNA. I want to be good at whatever I try. So I went into that going like, okay, I want to be realistic. That's not for everyone. That maybe it's not for me. And I left that going like, I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to figure this out, whatever it takes. And I still didn't have that like be here in 5 years vision, but I was like hell bent to make this the thing that let me release waitressing, because that was the thing that I felt like was breaking me. When really it was actually, once I released that, I knew that it was actually my career as a counselor was taking a lot more than it gave. But it wasn't until this like oppressive extra thing was kind of gone that I could really look at what was really going on for my own physical and emotional health. So that was kind of it. I mean, it still took me several years to fall in love with home fitness programs. My first start to finish workout was Shift Shop when I was in the test group last spring for it. But what I did do was stay really consistent with Shakeology, and I did the Ultimate Reset. I did a 21-day detox. If you haven't done that, it is what built my entire team. And now the 2B Mindset has kind of like opened up another door for us. But it was the first thing I did that probably my 4th month as a coach, and did it start to finish. And it was that testimony, right? It was that thing that I did. And while I was still sampling and playing with a la carting a lot of workout programs, it was that thing that kind of gave me that belief to be like, okay, I can go share this with people, and I'm going to be excited, because I was really excited about how I felt. around my results from it. Has anyone done the Ultimate Reset? Emily, you have? Okay, so I know it's scary. You're probably like, heck no, I can't do that. You can. It's not as scary as it seems, but it is hard, just like any program. And it's only 3 weeks, like 21-day fix. So it's just a lot more structured. But my point with that is that I got really excited and I found some confidence. So whether it's a program with a workout, or it's Shakeology, or it's a 3-day refresh, or heck, you could do it with Clean Week, or Ultimate Reset. Like there's so many options now. Just get really pumped up. Like a trip like this, you should, you know, like hopefully you live corporate, just feeling really pumped up, because people don't really care how much you know. They care how you feel about what you know. Like they care if you're excited about it and that you're confident. And so I've slowly started finding my voice. But really what has always like attracted me when I was watching my upline was because she was posting pictures with like other girls, like other coaches, other people. They were doing networking dinners. They were having like workouts together, you know, and it was stuff that I desired and craved, but I was working so much and I was just kind of, I don't want to say burnt, but like a lot of my close girlfriends had like then gotten married and had babies. They were in a different chapter of their lives. And then the people I was kind of left with were just colleagues at work that I didn't necessarily choose. And so they weren't like a great fit. You know, they were maybe not like the most positive or healthy people. And so I wanted like, I wanted a tribe. I think we all come into this looking for a community on some level. And as a counselor, like one of our basic needs is a place to belong. And so I think I remember seeing her posting these pictures and I was like, oh, I just want that. I don't even have time for that. I want to create that. Like, and as an adult, it's harder and harder to create that for ourselves, right? Like we don't have school or classes or clubs or sports teams to go plug into as accessibly. We kind of our community is the people that we're surrounded by, like our kids as parents, or, you know, kids as friends as parents, our people we work with, and maybe our neighbors or people at church, which aren't bad, right? But they're not necessarily people we go and like we find because there's this connective tissue at our core level. So I've always, and because I was a school counselor, I couldn't share a lot publicly my first year. Like I had to be really careful. First, I had no confidence in it and I was fearful. So that was part of my issue. But then also I had to truly be careful, because if my administrator or a parent of my school saw something online, like me in a before and after in a bathing suit, like I could literally have lost my job. So I had to find other ways. I had to find other ways to connect and share. So I dug really into my hot market, and I dug really into just sharing about healthy fitness and that internal transformation, which for me, the 20 Ultimate Reset gave me the perfect platform to do that, because it was this mental war that I had won. And I was learning about my relationship with food, that internal self-talk, and nutrition, which nobody can really like argue with nutrition, right? Like no parent is going to get mad because I'm talking about eating healthier. So I started really building off of that. And I more so really focused on getting in person, like belly to belly with people. And luckily, like as my team was growing, a lot of those gals were in Portland, and guys at the time. And we would do stuff like fit clubs and volunteering together, or we would do a fun run or a hike or like clothing swap parties or paint nights. Like we would just constantly be planning fun get-togethers, just a dinner, like margarita night, dinner night, something, so that we had stuff to share and show. And that was when you could kind of like legitimize or validate, or whatever word you want to kind of use, to kind of see like, look, I'm doing this weird online thing that now people I think get a little bit more, but you know, even though it wasn't that long, like dinosaur age 5 whole years ago in social media land. And it wasn't as normalized. So people were like, I don't get it. Like, what are you doing? You're online, but you're in person. So it gave a chance for my hot market, my warm market, to kind of get to talk to me in person, and friends that people I already knew or hadn't connected with in a long time. And then they saw that it was real, that I'm real, that what we're doing is real. There's other people doing it too. And that we were really stoked about it. And so that was initially kind of like how it grew. And then I moved. I retired from school counseling about 9 months in, and I made a scary decision to like follow something I'd always said I wanted to do, and move to San Diego, which is where I had a bunch of friends that lived, and I would go there a lot. And I'm like overheating myself. And so I did that. And before I moved to San Diego, I chaperoned a middle school trip to Costa Rica And my business exploded while I was there for like a week and a half trip because I was working. And I realized people were so excited about seeing me with other people, but working this virtual business from literally like, paradise. And it helped, and it got me really excited about the future because I was like, oh my gosh, all I literally need is my phone and Wi-Fi, right? And so, and I'm in a different chapter in my life than than a lot of people. I didn't have kids and I wasn't married. And so it was like something I'd always wanted was a job where I could travel and go anywhere. And so it was kind of truly like my dream job was like, I was building it. And the more I just kind of kept showing what I was doing, I kept talking about my business and how I was bringing it with me. And then I moved to San Diego, and then I didn't know anyone really there. I had my close friends, a couple of close friends, but then I was like starting from scratch and building a local team. Like all of a sudden I didn't have this great nest of a local team. And so I just set on a mission to like build a new community. And partly that was plugging into the Beachbody community that already existed, whether they are my team or not, but also like making new friends. And social media played a big role in that, like using hashtags, local, like city hashtags and local hashtags on Instagram, going to meetups, like going to yoga, and like just finding ways to kind of show up in the community of where people like me, potential friends, would also be hanging out. And a lot of friends like set me up on friend dates, like, oh, I have a girlfriend that lives down there. I have a guy friend that lives down there, things like that. And so what that is, and then I moved to Florida, and now we're in Central Oregon. But each time I've been able to like rebuild this local community, and then I leave that, and that community usually like can continue to grow and thrive. But and I've always used social media as well. Like social media has been a great tool because it was like truly like broke down these barriers, right? Like I realized that I could be in Costa Rica, or I could be in Oregon and talking to someone in Maine. It didn't really matter. I could be working at 1 a.m. and talking with someone in another part of the world. And it didn't, no matter how busy I got or wherever I was in the world, I didn't have to like, wasn't limited, finite to this like window of time that I had to like go show up, or getting someone to go to coffee with me or something like that. So I kind of front load all of that by saying social media is a great tool. I love posting. I love telling my story. I didn't start that way. I was like paralyzed by it, but I've learned to, it's kind of a mindset thing, right? Like, and I've learned to find my voice in that. It's built this entire business, but this whole time I've also had this vein of needing that social outlet too, and needing that personal connective tissue in my life, that I can like meet up with someone down the road. So, and I say all that because I don't want anyone to think like you don't need social media to build a successful business, because you do. I do believe it would be very hard to do a network marketing business, especially Beachbody in this day and age, without the tools that we have on Facebook and Instagram. And I say that because the next thing I'm going to say, when in the last year we've heard really loudly, right, that like Insta stories is where it's at. Have you heard that? Has anyone heard that little rumor? Like everything lives on Insta stories. Like that's the name of success, and that's what you have to do to be successful. And does anyone love Insta stories? Like anyone like rocking Insta stories? Yeah, and no, it's not a trick question. Maybe I'm gonna have you unmute, and I want you to all tell me like the first couple words that come to mind when you think of Insta stories, because it's not a right or wrong.
I love Insta stories. I'm not going to say I'm rocking it. It's hard to tell if my business comes from there. It's not like they're voting on a bunch of polls, but they can clearly see the behind the scenes and get to know me a lot better when I do reach out to them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love Insta stories. So someone else can answer.
Hannah, you go.
I'm like the newbie here, and like I honestly just like put something on my story for the first time today because I just never used it. And I love looking at other people's stories. Like I look at other people's and I'm like, how did they do that? And I just never really looked into it. I mean, it's simple, but I use like Snapchat a lot, but Snapchat's like gone now. Yeah, I'm excited to use it.
Okay, what about you two?
So I have been trying to use Instagram stories pretty consistently this year, like since probably like February when Carl started the Success 1x3x5 one.
Mm-hmm.
So I post on there. I try to post every day, but I've been trying to improve more on like what I post on there, not just workout videos, but like more of my life. and also working up the confidence to do like talking videos on there. A lot of times I just share pictures with a little text. So I'm still like kind of working on just being more confident in like saying, well, this is my life, like, and not be shy about it.
Perfect. I love that.
Okay. I'm getting better with stories. Similar to what she just said, I'm trying to be better at talking on my stories because it's so easy for me to just like post something or like a video of my workout or like something that I took earlier, and like I'm a server, so I do a lot of like my stuff for stories beforehand, and I try to post while I'm at work when I have free time. So I'm getting more comfortable with it the more I push myself to do it, and same with like the talking videos. I just have to get out of my head and just say like, whatever, I'll do it. And I try not to listen to it too much. I just listen to the end to make sure I don't get cut off halfway through a word. Just that way, because I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't
think anybody does.
No, I don't know if anybody does, but it's just.
I would wonder if like newscasters like the sound of their own voice, or like radio DJs. I'm like, they must, because like they wouldn't have gone to that job if they thought their voice was annoying. But okay, so that's awesome, and you guys are obviously very coachable and good students, which I feel like I am as well. And so when like we heard everyone got loud about Insta stories, and I actually would always really struggle with Snapchat, and I liked because it was just another place to be. So when Insta stories came, I was like playing with it and doing it, but ultimately, and maybe this is like old lady, like been in this business annoyance, but like ultimately I kind of got to the point where I worked really hard for 5 years, but I worked a lot harder my first 2 years than I do now. I still show up every day. I still work. I still do my invites. I do it all. But I worked a heck of a lot more, a lot longer days, a lot more hours when I was initially kind of like just trying to get this built, right? And it's like when you have to like build like momentum it'll keep carrying as long as you keep feeding that momentum, but it takes a lot of energy to like get yourself into that first state of the big mo, as Darren Hardy says. And while I love sharing, I like sharing like in my own way. And so Insta Stories has become, it wasn't something that I was really excited about life casting. Like I like posting a couple times a day, but I felt like I was starting to get really like stressed out by social media again. And I've tried, like, oh my gosh, I have to post, or I haven't done anything. I look at my stories and I'm like, they're all about to go away because it's been 24 hours. And I was like, felt this anxiety raising. And also not really feeling like it was my perfect tool. Like Facebook was still working for me, and Instagram was working fine. But I realized while I'm learning this, which I'm never going to say like, no, I don't want to do that, because that's not being coachable. It's not being a good student. It was taking away a lot of my joy. Right. And so I was like, I don't want to life cast all day, every day. I don't want everyone to know everything that's going on in my life. I like being able to tell my stories in little pockets through the lens that I want. And I say that, and I do story, like I do still share, but I don't want to feel like it's the only thing, right? Because as soon, and that was me, and there's not a judgment with it. And there's people that are rocking this so hard on Insta stories and doing so great. But I realized that if I lost my joy, I was going to stop wanting to do this business. And I wasn't going to want to keep doing it with the same excitement and passion that I've had for 5 years. And because I'm a little stubborn and like the louder corporate got about like, this is the only way, I was like, I will show you there's another way. And I did, and I have. And I have been really intentional with my team and myself with being on the, as loud as they are about Insta stories, I've been kind of as loud or louder in my team with like, you don't need to be plugged in all the time. You don't need to be like life casting all the time. You don't have to, like, what you're doing behind the scenes is more important than what's on your, so you need to have stuff on your social media, but I'm going to tell you, you're like that duck. You got to be paddling behind the scenes under the water a lot more than like that calm floating surface. And that was one of the things I talked about on Scotty's call, was like how I've kind of done that, because what I've seen, and we all have to own our own, own this. And that's really I want you guys to hear that first. Like, if stories and Instagram and like not being social with people, it fills your cup and makes you happy, then like lead with that joy. If it isn't, then own it another way. It's not that Beachbody is the problem, okay? It's that whatever it's bringing it out in your life or highlighting in your life or triggering in you might be is the problem. And that's what you work on. So it's not like Beachbody has to look the same way for all 6 of you. Like it can be different for each person. And so for me, I went back to what really first caught my attention, and it was that community and living in a new town. And I realized I needed to like be more intentional about the person I wanted to be in my community, becoming an influencer in my town, a community leader in health and wellness, and go out and find my people, right? And so, and as soon as I started putting my energy in that direction, and I did the release valve on like this responsibility of like having to be on Insta stories, and the only way to be, like, as soon as I muted that message in my brain, I felt my like joy come back, because I was like, I'm gonna figure this out, and I don't care, and I'm not in a race with anyone. It's great that there are some awesome gals, and I love that they're my friends. These gals that have like kicked butt in the last year and gone from like emerald to 15-star diamond in like 2 months. You know, nobody's done that, but you know what I mean? Like, you're like, holy smokes, you just did that. That's awesome. And it's not to like negate that success. I'm just saying that we all can own our own path. And if that's where you're at and that's the trajectory you're on, like, rock it. I've had my years of like stellar growth, and I've had my years where my growth has continued to go, but it's not like the angle has shifted down. But I know that I'm here for the long haul, for, you know, the next 10, 15 years. And so, and my message to every new coach on my team is like, find a pace you can sustain. Find a pace you can sustain for the next year and for the next 3 years. And so if that's like, and I've gone fast for you know, I joined and I found a fast pace. I found a fast click. But not everyone can do that, because you've got jobs and kids and family and spouses, and you have to find a pace you can sustain month after month. Because when you swing your pendulum too far and you go too fast and too hard, the opposite, the other end of that spectrum, is burnout, right? Is going MIA. And when you do that, you're going to burn trust, you're going to lose followers, you're going to lose joy. And when you're ready again, it's going to be that much more exhausting, because you got to start all over again, pumping that well, building that momentum. Not that it's impossible. It's just going to be like this crazy making cycle for your own joy that's going to be a little harder to get through. So find a pace you can sustain, where the rest of your life doesn't go to crap, that you can like keep growing, and you can always accelerate. You can always push the gas pedal down and like ramp up. And when you're working on a big goal, or you have a deadline, or at the end of the month you're not where you want to be with Success Club, or at the end of the year when you're looking at your elite, you know, whatever, if you're working on new leaders retreat, like, there's deadlines, there's times when you ramp up, but then go back to that baseline where you know where you're like, I can maintain this pace, right? Because you just want to make sure you don't like dip south of that, where you end up not being the person that your people think of when they think of like, I want to get healthy. You want them to think of you because you're so consistent and present. And so, what was my point there? So finding that pace you can sustain. And I think that like, so 5 years in, I'm not in a race with anyone. And so by letting go of that like necessity to like master Insta stories right then and there, I was able to cultivate some really great personal relationships in my town, and it's opened up so many doors. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what that has looked like. But really what it did was give my team that permission, as they've seen me get louder about like finding other ways, like doing more free groups, being loud in community groups on Facebook, getting loud in my personal community, interacting more in my messengers, right? Rather than like working on attraction marketing, which I have already like worked on and mastered 4 years ago. But I just, for whatever, like my block has been with like life casting all day, every day. And that has given my team permission to find their own way too. Some of them are awesome on Insta stories. They love it. They thrive on it. They don't want to go get like around other people, and they like sharing. It's easier for them than crafting a post, you know, like a storytelling post. And then others are like, oh, thank you. I'm just so glad that this is an option too. Because I think when we hear, because they're always looking out for our best interests, and they're not wrong, but when we hear corporate be really loud and explicit about X, Y, and Z is what you need to do, then you should listen. But I want you to know that there's not just one way. There's not just one way to be successful. The right way to be successful in this business is the one that feels the most authentic and fulfilling and freeing to you. It doesn't mean don't do it, but find a way to like fill your cup with that first. So yes, I still story, and yes, I still message, but I do the stuff, I sandwich it around the stuff that I really like, which is live in-person stuff and posting great content in my actual posts. And I call it a love sandwich. I'll put the stuff that I really like to do on the either end of the stuff that I don't really like to do, so that I make sure I still do it, because, we all have jobs in our life that, whether it's as a teacher or as a parent or as a waitress or whatever, like there's aspects of every job and you're like, ugh, this isn't my favorite part, but we still have to do it, right? And so this isn't any different. Any questions about any of that before I'm going to show a screen? Or any thoughts?
I'll save my question for the end, but do you have a question?
Okay.
No? Go ahead.
So I wanted to share this. It kind of, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that, like, I have sometimes felt overwhelmed with, like, feeling like I have to life cast. So thank you for sharing that. Like, it's okay to not feel like you have to do so much every day. Like, yeah, do a couple, but don't feel like you have to do all day, every day.
Yeah, and I think if you're not going to do all day every day, then make sure you're balancing that with like effort somewhere else, right? Like you're not just saying, I'm not going to do anything this day, like fill up with somewhere else. So this is a screen I wanted you to see, and it doesn't really like seamlessly tie in here, but I think that we get in like you said, my favorite, least favorite word, my favorite bad word, is the word overwhelm. And actually in my welcome video to my coaches, I tell them like straight up, I'm like, O word is like a 4-letter word. We're not going to use the overwhelm word, because I feel that it gives us permission to see ourselves as helpless, right? I think when I say I'm overwhelmed, I'm like surrendering and I'm paralyzed and I'm saying I'm a victim here. Where with overwhelm, which I feel like is kind of that energy that overwhelm has attached to it. Maybe not everyone's like that, but that's kind of how I see. So I put it off limits because it makes us think through like, what are some other things that I'm feeling and how can I re-empower myself into an active state where I'm not feeling this overwhelmed place, right? Like I'm feeling very lost. I'm feeling very stressed. I'm feeling very confused. I'm feeling very unclear what to do next. Those are more clear descriptors of how you might be feeling in a way that can turn into action to solve it. Like I'm always going to go into problem solving mode for myself of like, okay, what can I do to fix this? And I feel like when I tell myself, which I do get overwhelmed, I'm not saying I don't ever feel it, but when I do get to the point where I'm like, I'm overwhelmed, it's when I'm in like, then I immediately go to like paralysis mode and I do nothing. And I think that, and then that doesn't help me fix that problem, right? Then I go take a nap or I just sit and do nothing. And we get overwhelmed or we get stuck in that place of inaction when we get around, when we experience what we identify as failure, or we get stuck in this mindset where we are comparing, or we are getting really down on ourselves, and where maybe just one of these things have happened. Have you ever had a coach cancel on you? Have you ever had someone ghost you in a message? Have you ever had your partner or boyfriend or spouse, or husband be like, oh, you're on your phone again, or oh, I don't get this, or oh, this isn't working, you're wasting your time, this is a scam, whatever, someone unsupportive? Have you ever had someone say, like, have you ever had that thought where you're like, I'm not making enough money yet, right? Or I'm not growing it. Like I saw nods earlier in the call when I was like, if you ever have compared yourself to another coach, I'm like, I'm not as good as she is at this. I'm not as fast growing as she is at this. Have you ever missed Success Club or dropped rank or had a bad week? Like all those things are stuff that's happened. This whole list I made because I went through the things that have happened to me. Every single thing on this list has happened to me more than once. And they're not failures. They are, well, I guess they are in a way, but they're not failures in the sense that they're not finite, okay? They're just part of success. These are essential. This is part of business. This is part of growth. This is an essential part to getting to the business that you're meant to have, and they're going to make you the leader that you're meant to be, and they're going to help you know how to help more people, right? so this is like totally an aside, but there was a male leader in our business who was posting in the roundtable about like how he was really upset that Rachel Hollis was coming, right?
Jeff talked about this today too.
And he was like, you know, and we've got all these we've got great women, but you're just pushing men out because you're offering this woman to speak and da da da. And I get that you guys really like her, but she's a speaker to women. And first of all, if you know Rachel Hollis, she doesn't just speak to women. But my first thought, you guys, was like, does this man not have a single freaking woman on his team? Like, what kind of, a leader is always going to look for, where's the lesson in this? Where's the growth in this? And I was like, you're really just kind of, and I like this person a lot. He's a very successful coach. But I was like, this just shows me how limited your view is and like where the value is and what we have. Like, anytime something negative has happened to me or a failure has happened or I've had a setback, which while we were just talking, like our cancellation request just came through, you know, I was like, oh, is this one of mine or a downline? Please don't be a PS, right? But like those things just happen. And each time I can go, okay, is there something I could have done better? Is there a way I can grow and improve? Or is this just one of those things that's just part of it's just part of the business? But what I see is, and I share this because I want you to normalize fear. I want you to run towards fear. I want you to be the first one to like seize the failure opportunity, because that means that you're going to be a better leader to help someone else go through that failure too. Guaranteed, every single person you bring into this business, if they work this business, they're going to have all or some of these things. And I can't tell you how many people have been like so excited and then one of these things happened. Even just like they sent one message and the person saw it and didn't respond. And it completely deflated their sales. Right? Have you ever have you seen that happen? Or has it happened to you where you're like, I was so excited to send like 20 messages today. And like the first one just flops and you're like, oh, I don't really want to anymore. Like, because you just gave away all your power because you took that as a message internally of like, there's something wrong with you. When it isn't. It's not. It never is. I promise you. Like I pinky swear promise you. It is just part of this business and it's part of growth. And it is a necessary, I can't say the word, a necessary part of like success is to have all those things. I mean, I will send this actually is a terrible slideshow, but I'll send you these slides. I don't think I did this on Scotty's call. So I read The Year of Yes. I have a book club. We read The Year of Yes earlier in the year, and which is a Shonda Rhimes book. And right after we finished, like 2 days after our book club met, I was asked for the 3rd time to do the Mrs. Oregon pageant. And I'm not a pageant girl. I'm sure you can tell, like, it's not really my, like, cup of tea. And I'd already told her a hard no a couple times. And then I was like, well, why, Jamie? Like, why are you saying no? Is this something that you could learn from, grow from, maybe even, like, just show, like, maybe your perceptions, your bias is true, but, like, what is there to lose? And so I said yes to it. And I lost hard, right? Like, you can see the ladies with the flowers were the top 4. I was not even in the top 4. Which is fine. I was actually like so happy I didn't have to answer that question on stage. But and I realized I'm like, this is not a job I want. But what I gained from it was amazing friends. All these ladies are some of the coolest, most philanthropic, like awesome ladies I've ever met. I got to see my family. My friend showed up. They saw me doing something that was way out of my wheelhouse. They put my heads on popsicle sticks. We had this great team bonding fun. And they saw me doing something that like scared the bejesus out of me, but like doing it anyways, right? And I got voted Mrs. Congeniality, which was actually like the prize that I thought was the most like important one of all of them. Like I didn't care about best evening gown or best bathing suit. Like the one that my peers voted on, my other ladies, was this one. And that to me like was like the biggest prize. A couple of these ladies have become coaches on my team. Like there's no failure in that. Like, did it suck that I was like, oh, I didn't even make the top 4? Like, I could have like sat in that for so long and been like, oh, what does this mean about myself, and get down on myself. But really, like, at the end of the day, I chose to look at all the good stuff, and there's way more even than that. But the point is that the failures happen every day, right? You're going to have big and small failures all the time in life, not even just in Beachbody, but in life, like period. And how you perceive them is and how you work through those is going to be 100% dictated by the type of mindset you have. And this is not a static thing. This is something that you can change like on the flip of a hat. If you haven't read The Happiness Advantage yet, so Sean Aker, if you guys went to Summit, right, you saw Sean Aker. His talk changed my life. I binge watched his Super Soul with Oprah. I watched his TED Talks. I've read this twice now. We just had our book club on it last night, like, because it's like validation for all this hard work that we do in this business and all that we preach. So this is where a lot of us start, is the fixed mindset. A lot of us start on the right. A lot of people you work with are going to be in a fixed mindset. Just know the people you coach and mentor and are talking to, prospects, a lot of them are probably stuck there, right? Thinking that their abilities are capped, that their life is predetermined, that they are a failure because they failed in the past. Like, they're stuck there. And just by the switch of like the questions we ask ourselves, the messages we tell ourselves, is going to change how we perceive all of that, and how if we're not growing into a growth mindset, we're never ever going to be able to help someone in a fixed mindset like grow into a growth mindset as well. Does that make sense? And a lot of it is just, all it takes is you saying like, okay, well, how can I learn from this? A simple question like that. How can I learn from this? What is this meant to tell me? My favorite quote is like, you were given this mountain to show others how to move it, right? Like, how am I going to move this mountain to help other people so that they don't even have this mountain maybe in their future? Even something as simple as like, which feedback is hard for me, but like saying, okay, feedback is constructive. What can I learn from this? I like to try new things. I'm not someone who does always like to try new things, but telling myself I like to try new things. That pageant, I said hard no to going next year again, but I'm so glad I did it, right? And it's a really kind of maybe a silly example because it's pageant, but it was something for me. It was kind of this big thing. So I'm gonna like, you guys know these stories, right? These famous people who have failed so many times. Like, this one always blows my mind. Over 5,000 prototypes, like 5,000 different prototypes. And like, who would keep doing something 5,000 different failed times? But these people all did, right? And now they're super famous and super successful and super wealthy, and I hope super happy. I don't know. I would have to hope. But that comes from that growth mindset. And so that's where, when I say like, there's no one way to do this business, find the way that's it won't always be fun. It won't. I promise it's not always going to be fun. And it won't always be easy. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take sometimes staying up late, waking up early, saying no to TV time, to movies, to social time. Like, it's going to take like a deprioritizing of other stuff and a prioritizing of Beachbody stuff sometimes, not all the time. It shouldn't throw your life so out of whack and out of balance that you're unhealthy and unhappy and you're losing your why to get to your why, right? You shouldn't, but it should bring joy. It should be joyful at the same time every day. And you are the only one who's responsible for cultivating that joy. Okay, it's not Emily's job to make this joyful for you. It's not Jeff Hill's job to make this joyful for you. It's not Shanti's job to make this joyful. That is you going, okay, what am I filling my day with? Am I scrolling? Is that joyful? Am I focusing on the people that say no? And like, am I focusing on people who aren't working in my business? And I can tell you that's a great example, because I could have 10, I mean, I've had 11 new PS Diamonds this year. Like, and then I've got a handful of girls who've been like saying they want to get to Diamond and working for Diamond, but then not even showing up on calls. They're not hitting Success Club. They're not like responding to my messages. And how easy is it for me to like get frustrated, right? And like focus on them versus like the 11 new rock stars that are like setting huge goals. And that's me. That's me choosing where to put my energy. And nobody's going to tell me, but you know, my upline's not going to be like, well, tell me like, well, Jamie, stop focusing on the negative, focus on the positive. I mean, maybe you have that person, and we all do need that person sometimes, but that has to be you like building that internal like discipline. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so find the joy. So for me, I had to identify it, and I quickly realized, I'm like, I'm not going to feel, this is going to lose all its joy if I am living on Insta stories all day. Cause I'm trying intentionally to be cultivating a relation, like being more present in my life and remembering that like people don't crave this when they're watching you. they don't crave more of this in their life. They probably already have a lot of it or too much of it. They crave like what you guys are doing right now, sitting on those couches, all cuddling in blankets, and like post the heck out. Take so many pictures this weekend and use those pictures, tell those stories, share that laughter for the next year until the next time you come together, right? Because that's what people crave. They crave that time, heart to heart and belly to belly. And you can create that in your life and in your community, in your town, all the time. And so what I say, I don't want to do anything. I don't need any of these slides. Okay, so I'm gonna the way you do that is by deciding what you like to do, finding your people locally. And it doesn't have to be that you have a big team locally. It's kind of a mix of finding the people, like doing stuff with your team you already have locally, but then also building that team. Like it's for the team you're building. It's for the team that you're growing. And so half the stuff I do is like open just to the community, like the people I meet in Bend, my friends list in Bend. And then the other half of stuff I plan, I start with my team first, right? And I will like plan stuff around their schedules. And then we might invite some of the, you have those coaches that they're like right on the fence. They're like so close to saying yes and they're just hesitating, right? Everyone kind of gets to that point. And if it's a local person, like bringing them into a dinner or a volunteering day or whatever you're planning, because then they get to meet the rest of the team. They see the fun. The more you can kind of show that you are the same person in real life and the person online, and there's an authenticity there, they're like, okay, then this is all legit. And so I just started planning fun things that I would be okay with if nobody showed up. Stuff I don't mind going to eating by myself. I don't mind going to paint night by myself. An example was like I got certified to teach Insanity, which is super fun. I really loved that cert. But then I started doing like free fit clubs with Insanity, and I would get like sometimes a lot of people would come, other times nobody would come. Sometimes it would be one person, and I realized I was like not having fun with it after a few months. I was like, I don't really want to go. What if only one person shows up? Or what if no one shows up and I'll be so annoyed that I went across town and did this whole thing? And I realized I'm like, okay, this isn't fun for me. Therefore, it's not going to be a fun thing to continue. So I just moved my fit clubs and I call them workout parties at home. I'm going to work out at home anyway. I have this great space to do that. And even in before I had a great space, we could just use my living room. And then that way I was really not annoyed if nobody showed up because I was going to do it anyways. So there, you can always course correct. And so we just started doing some fun things, and I will talk about how I invite to these things, but some ideas that I have, and I just wrote them all down because I always have like brain farts, but we go to concerts, Spartan or 5K races, like fun runs. Okay. Going to dinner out, I already mentioned. Paint nights, I already mentioned. Having game nights at my house. Well, all summer long, we were doing hikes, mountain biking, paddleboarding, because those are things I like, right? Those are things that I want to do anyways. Fit clubs, clothing swaps. When like the Fitness Marshal came to Portland, we like road tripped up, and all my girlfriends in Portland, we all like bought tickets to go do his live event with the Fitness Marshal. Do you guys love the Fitness Marshal?
Don't you?
I have a friend who's been doing the Fitness Marshal, and she's signed up through me for Beachbody, and she's doing it the past like month and created like playlists. And she's like, I still do like Beachbody too, but like I wanted to do this, and she actually lost like 15 pounds in the past month.
That's so awesome. Well, and so I'll put like fun, like I don't even know, like Fun Friday, and I'll like put a Fitness Marshal link from YouTube. I'm like, okay, everyone dance like to warm up to your workout today. Like have fun with it. Or I'll do one like on the days when I really don't want to work out. I'm like, okay, I'll get started with one Fitness Marshal routine. And then I'll be like happy and smiling, and then I'll push play. I hosted a murder mystery party at my house. We do craft night. Like we made Christmas wreaths last year. Last year for Christmas, we did a cookie swap where everyone makes like their favorite Christmas cookie. Of course, it's a great opportunity to like make a healthy Christmas cookie. Doesn't have to be. We played rec league, sport teams, and like always just kind of doing something fun. But really, all of these things are stuff I like to do. So one would reason that the women that say yes to these things are my tribe, right? Because they also like to do those things. So And then we worked with my team to do some stuff that we're doing across the country, and like the leaders are owning on the same day-ish or the same week-ish to do the same thing. So like we have a virtual book club that we host that is a free big Facebook community group, and we're doing this PD, and we just open it up and invite to a new book every month, and people can join this virtual book club. But then I host a local book club. So like last night was book club, and all these ladies are in this virtual book club with the rest of my team and all of their book clubbers. But then they come over, we've been doing this for 13 months, and they come over every 5 to 6 weeks. We'll meet every time we switch books. We'll have a potluck. You can look on my page, and we were all dressed up in Halloween costumes because it's Halloween, and it was a Halloween themed night. So my stories are all the funny pictures of the food they brought. And then some of my other leaders, like someone's doing their book club tonight, someone's doing theirs next week, but then they're doing their local book club too. So we're like building that community within this virtual community, if that makes sense. My favorite thing I started doing since May or June, because I was having a lot of success with TV Mindset, but then it was at the same time I could not get them to engage or like post. It was just this very private thing that the TV Mindsetters are doing, and I'm like, talk to me, like I want, like, not like a normal challenge group, right? And so we started doing what I call bunny brunch. And so TV Mindset's so easy to go to breakfast, and I love going to brunch. So we'll go and we just do brunch, and we switch restaurants around town. It's an easy one to stay on track because you just eat eggs and potatoes or eggs and toast, and you're like doing plate it, right? And who doesn't love brunch? And then we talk about healthy choices. We talk about the struggles for the week. We just connect. We have fun. And that has become a fun thing. We've even started going to bingo afterwards because there's a local brewery that has bingo. And then now some of my leaders are doing bunny brunches on the weekends with their local clients, and it's a great thing to invite prospects to as well. And then other stuff like Habitat for Humanity is something that I've been really passionate about, and that's a great volunteering opportunity too, because you can bring a group. You set up a group to go, and so my team does a Habitat volunteer day once a month, and then if we can't fill it with our team, we invite some of our prospects or even or even just friends, and then they get a sense of who we are and what we're about. But then the clincher is, if you don't post about it, it never happened. So the point is that you take lots of pictures, and then you post it online, and you tell the story, and you show the joy and the love and the affection you have for one another, and you tell the story of what that means for you. So you've got to marry the two together. You have to live in this symbiotic environment between in-person and social. But for me and for a lot of my team, that keeps our cups filled, because we do get so much screen time and sitting on our butt time, and how full do you get in your cup after Super Saturday or Summit or a weekend like this? You feel energized, and so you have to kind of create those little mini situations. And that kind of goes back to owning it, owning this, fill your own cup by creating situations like this. And so if none of those things sound fun to you, or your time is limited because of X, Y, and Z, get creative. If you've got kiddos, or you've got dogs, do dog park rendezvous, or do stroller walks with your kiddo, whatever, or just have a play date for your kids where they're literally playing and you're just hanging out on the floor. Find stuff that fits your interest, your lifestyle, your schedule. But I would say just get around other people. And in those situations isn't when you're hard selling Beachbody to them. No, you're just yourself. Maybe you wear and share. Maybe you plant a seed. Normally when you are talking to someone new, especially, and they're like, well, what do you do? And you ask, they're going to say the same thing in return, normal conversation flow, and just knowing what that looks like. It could be you're oh, well, I'm a online health and fitness coach. Guaranteed, if you say, well, I'm a virtual health and fitness coach, they're like, virtual health and fitness? How does that work? And you can plant some seeds, and or they're like, oh, that sounds really fun, or that sounds amazing. What do you say to that? It is fun. It is amazing. And then they're like, oh, you affirm that you're planting a seed. And then if you're doing your due diligence online, make sure that your friends online, they're going to see you edifying what you're doing, and they're going to keep watching. Okay. And you're building trust by being the same person online and in person. And just, you're going to build trust by not being that person who is pushing products on them, or else they won't want to come hang out with you in real life. They're like, oh, that's that girl that like just tells me to buy Shakeology all the time. Or you can even plant little seeds like, well, oh, what, you know, if it fits in conversation, like, oh, I tell my clients all the time to X, Y, and Z, or my team and I did this and it was really awesome. Like you can find those ways to plant those little like verbiage breadcrumbs, and then people, it like perks their ears, because you're like, clients? Well, what do you mean clients? Or when you reference my business, they're like, oh, you're running a business? Like I see you posting stuff online. Like they're going to start naturally getting curious and then watching. Or I'll use the word like, well, now that I work for myself, right? That's what is the next question? Well, what do you mean? What did you used to do? Right? And then you can tell your elevator pitch story. Well, I used to be a school counselor and I waited tables, but then I started, you know, you don't tell your whole story, but you got your little elevator pitch, and that's a great way to plan it in. And that just comes from engaging and connecting with people. I've had those conversations in the grocery store line more often than I can count, running into someone at Target, going in, it's like sitting, like the person like waiting. I've made a couple of friends randomly like waiting to be sat in a restaurant, you know, like just on airplanes all the time. You kind of just have to be the person that's going to make eye contact and smile and say hi and how are you. And so build it and they will come. It would be my biggest kind of thought. If you are interested in building that, like it might not be my first book club night. One person came. She's a great friend now. And we just talked about politics. We talked about life. We talked about being new to Bend. We didn't even talk about the book. We just talked about everything. And just know that, and then post about it, build the FOMO. FOMO is real. Like you can get people to move mountains out of FOMO. And I think that's honestly like why this year has been such a big growth in our rank. First, we set that team goal. We have such a great, strong culture and community in our team. We're not in a race to get there. And then once kind of these girls started popping, a lot of them have been coaching for 3 or 4 years. And it was like, okay, well, if she's doing this, I have no reason not to do this now too. And then there was this sense of like encouragement and accountability to like, okay, well, she had the same excuses I've had for 3 years. I better like get my ish out of the way. Or just the FOMO of like, well, now they're doing all this stuff together, and now they're going to Disneyland together, and, you know, creating the FOMO.
What rank were you at the beginning of this year?
So I've always built, and this could be another fun call, but I've always built for income over rank. So I have 4 business centers, and I've built my husband. So I was lifetime 7 in my first, 3 in my second, 2-star in my third. Jamie, my husband is also Jamie. He was diamond, and then I built opened my 4th CBC this year. Okay. And so I was lifetime 7, but I think I was technically 5-star in my first. So we went from 5 to 15 basically this year.
That's awesome.
And now like, and I built my 4 CBC to diamond. So I was building along with them. I think that was also part of like, okay, look, I've got more to go than you do. Like, let's do this together. But I think like and then I use these events, I post about them afterwards, and I invite people on social media as well. And I will create Facebook events. I created like a community page, like a New to Bend women's group, for like a meetup group for people who wanted to make new friends in town or wanted to go and get together. And I plan stuff in there. But then also as I add new people from my town, I use the friends list option on Facebook. And I create an interest list. So anytime when I go and make an event, I can go to my Bend friends list, and I invite everyone that's local, because I've already added them. When you add someone on Facebook, you can organize your friends list, your contact list, with categories. So I've categorized all my local people into a list so that when I do an event, they are the ones I select to get the invite. And some of them and then I'll privately invite the ones I really like, I'm hoping will see the event and come, and then just build a lot of excitement and FOMO. And then I put like everyone in, like, so my book club, there's a private message thread of the gals who have opted in and like you generally come, and a lot of them are still flies on the wall, but they'll be like, no, I still want to come someday. Or they'll message me about other things. And then they naturally will bring up health and fitness. Like my book club started as just a general community type thing. And now most of the ladies that come regularly are coaches or discount coaches or clients. And so then they also have that sense of team, like camaraderie too, because they're part of that. And they see the other girls in the book club see them coming and doing my team stuff, and it like again builds the FOMO. So I think I'm way over on time, but that's kind of some stuff for you guys to consider, I guess.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you. I do have a question for you myself. So when I first heard your call, and I know we chatted a little bit about this, but I was like, I need to do stuff locally. Like we moved to Colorado, and you kind of just fall in this trap of like, oh, I work from home, and then you don't leave the house, and a year goes by and you don't realize it. I'm exaggerating. I've left my house in a year, but you can fall into that because I'm very shy until someone gets to know me, or if I like feel comfortable in the area. But when I'm brand new by myself somewhere, I'm not very outgoing. But anyways, first of all, it was Sean Akers' talk at Summit, and then I read his book, and the whole last section was about community. And I was like, okay, I need to build like a local community here, whether they're coaches or not, whether they're clients or not. Like that piece of my life was missing because I had it in everywhere else I lived, and we just like hadn't got it in Colorado really yet. Anyways, my question is, when I think I feel awkward now because I do have a social media following, and like I try to meet people. It's almost like I haven't even given them my social media because I'm like, I want this person to get to know me before they see me on social media, which I can see now. I'm definitely the same person. Like I embarrass myself on my stories every day. Like I am 100% the same person online as I am in real life. But I think, how do you get over that? I guess like, okay, I think it's like they don't know, or I don't know anything about them, but they know everything about me now, because like you can know my whole life by following me for a day on social media. Like you can read my hundreds of posts, or like just on my stories, you get to see I enjoy stories. So I'm someone that like enjoys getting on and sharing that my dog just killed a squirrel or like something random. But I guess like how do you do that when you feel like they know everything about your life and you like know absolutely nothing about theirs?
I think that's a really good question, and it might be situational, but I think that I don't think people actually care that much. Like I don't think they made me like, honestly, like, 'cause I've thought of those things too, and I'm like, I don't think they're actually looking through my photo albums, and they're gonna see your fresh stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes people will be like, oh my God, you're like Instagram famous. You have like 14,000 followers. And I'm like, yeah. It's really no big thing. It's like, and so they do like kind of notice that, but I'm like, it's still me, and then I just own it, and I try to be really intentional about getting to know them. So I'm a big fan of going on coffee dates or going out to lunch or inviting them over to workout parties, or, just like just trying to be really good about asking them questions. Yeah. If I'm feeling like if I'm feeling that's a barrier, but I think they see, like, I have a couple of girlfriends that are nurses, and so I use them as an example. And like, we don't ever talk about Beachbody. They know we're friends on Facebook, and they follow me on Instagram and vice versa. But they'll sometimes reply to stories, and they're always there to cheer me on, and they're like my biggest fan. But it's not that I haven't really it's not that they don't want to do Beachbody, but I almost like don't want to even. I don't want to. I like having them as like just right. Normal friends that aren't like switching over. They kind of help me unplug and check out. Mm-hmm. But then like one of them was like, I'm curious about this coaching thing, and that's really exciting too, but it was just organically happened, right? Yeah. But she was like, I don't really get it though. I just like, I see what you're doing and I like cheer you on, but I don't really get it. You got to explain it to me, even though she's watched me for a year. So I think people might follow you and understand you, and like, or might follow you and see and know a lot about you, but at the same time, like, they don't really know what we're doing. Yeah. And so they're
just you saying like they don't care that much was a good reminder of like they're probably not gonna like go read every single post if I was in my head.
And if they do, it's because they're interested in joining you. Like the only people that are gonna go spend that time on your page, in your albums, and in your highlights are people that are like I want to do this.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. So, you guys want to ask her any questions?
Anyone gonna go plan an event? or like I don't want to do that. I want to do stories.
No, I totally am. And I think for the longest time, I was like, no, I want to build this fully online. Like, I have good friends in person. Like, I don't need more type of thing, which sounds horrible. But like, I'm like, because a lot of my best friends back home in Pennsylvania, like, they don't care about what I like. You said they're there to support me, but they don't care. They don't really know what I do, and they're not gonna, maybe someday, but they're not people I'm like, come do this with me. So I was like, oh, I have my friends, like, I'll just build this online. And now after doing that, I'm like, no, I totally need the community piece. Like, that's just something, like you were saying, that fills my cup. I love going to gym classes or like meeting people for coffee or doing a Tough Mudder or like whatever it is. I enjoy that stuff and I leave energized. Like, I love Super Saturdays. I love Summit. I love events. And I was like, duh, I'm not like doing that in my everyday life in my business. So it's just a good eye opener for me.
Well, and if you like doing those things, then your dream coaches are like doing those things too. So they're gonna sit up and pay attention when they see you doing the stuff you're doing online and also doing the stuff in real life. Like, wait, she does like that. And for me, I had to intentionally still go to the gym a lot because I'm a gym person. I didn't, like I said, I love it now. Yeah. But it took years to really like appreciate and respect and fall in love with home fitness. And so I know my people out there are rolling their eyes at home fitness. So I also kind of have to like show, like, I'm still going to yoga. I still go to spin and, not right now because I'm in a cheering Sperm 20 test group, and I'm like too dead at the end of the day. But I try to like show all of it so that they see that it's not like, I think people, whether they have preconceived notions about Beachbody or not, they are going to assume that your life for every coach is exactly how you're showing it. Right. And so if they're not inspired by that or excited about it because you're not excited or inspired about it, like, then they're not going to be. Or if they're like, oh man, because like my husband will go out of town for 2 weeks for a race and I won't leave. I was like not leaving the house. I'm like, well, I did go to the grocery store once, but like I can be a hermit, and I know, and I'm not one that will project shoulds onto people or what's right. Like, people need to like own what they need, but I don't think it's healthy. And I've read a lot of studies, and we hear more about it on the news of like technology addiction and screen time issues and mental health issues because of excess screen time. Like, I think we hear more and more about it from science because it's a problem. And I also want to be mindful of like, okay, what am I doing? Like, am I like pushing something that's going to end up being something that's anything but awesome for people? So I think I also feel this personal responsibility to be loud about like, no, turn off the phone. It's okay. Because I'm trying to do that. And I think there was this fear for so long, like, if I did that, my business would fail. And again, like, I also had that first 2 years where I was like grinding hard and hustling, and maybe we all need that for a little bit. I don't know, but because you have to kind of have that too. But I think that there are at the end of the day, there are no emergencies in Beachbody land. Like,
well, it's like you are proof of your growth this year is it worked on the new way you did it, not the hustling in your phone 24/7. Like, you still need to work hard when you're working hard, but I've really been preaching to like intentionally work hard during your business hours, but then get the heck off your phone. Like, put it in a different room, unplug, like go do something else. Like, you can either, and I was like this too, but you can sit there for 8 hours and not get much done if you have 8 hours. But if you give yourself 2 and you're like, get this done and then go, like, I joined Orange Theory, like go out to do something, or like you said, go to a coffee date or whatever it is. But I've been preaching that too. And I think you're just like a really good example of that does work. Like, you don't have to sit in your phone all day to grow a business.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But when you are off your phone, be present and be engaged, take lots of pictures.
Yeah. You should see the photo shoot we had outside this morning.
Let me see them.
Yeah, I want to see those pictures.
There was a dog.
Yeah, there's a dog at our Airbnb that's like downstairs, but it came outside, so he's in like half of our picture.
Those always be memories you'll like laugh about.
Yeah. Are you sure you guys don't have questions?
I have a question. Like, how many hours a day do you work on your business, or like, what does your schedule look like?
Right now or when I started?
I guess let's do both to see like how it changed.
Well, so when I first started, I had like 30-minute pockets of time. Like I was working 2 to 3 jobs. And so I had like 30 on the weekends. I had more time. So I would sit for like 5 or 6 hours or as much as I had and like try to do as much as possible. And then when I went full time with coaching, then I had all this time and I was like super unproductive because I also was working all the time. But I also didn't have friends. And so I was probably working 8 to 10 hours a day, but also like, again, like how Emily was saying, like when you have a lot of time, you kind of become a little less structured and unproductive with your time. And I was doing a lot more like leadership stuff. Like my team was growing really big. We were just hitting elite for the first time. And like, so I had all these systems to create, and I wasn't in phase 1, which is like that team building mode. I was more in like training and creating YouTube content for trainings and all that stuff. So it wasn't like I was just inviting during that time. And I would say I'm a good like 6 to 8 hour a day worker because I have that time. And nowadays though, it just kind of varies. There'll be days when I post in my challenge group and I do my workout and that's it. And then there's days where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like, I told one of my coaches came over today and she's like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, I'm working. Like I've traveled for the last 2 weeks and I kind of, because I travel a lot, I kind of build my schedule around, I've learned that travel doesn't make productive work. I just barely keep things together as I'm traveling. And so on those off weeks when I'm home, I will like get caught up and get ahead. And so this week we've had people around and in and out and travel. I have been home, but like my husband's been gone. So I've worked maybe like 3 good hours each day. And so this weekend, because I'm not where I want to be for my own Success Club goals, and we have, I want to be, if I'm present and working my butt off, my team will be present and working their butt off. So I'll probably have a good 6 to 7 hours on Saturday and Sunday where I'm working. But again, it's like I don't have kids. I have 7 fur babies, and they don't necessarily need a lot more time. And so, but I do find that I'm more productive when I have limited amounts of time. Like on those, when I'm traveling, and I have like an hour on an airplane or like, half an hour at a coffee shop because I'm like just escaping from the people I'm around just so I could work for a little bit. I'm a lot more productive than when I'm sitting here like for the last 2 hours. I was like, I should do some stuff. And I don't even know what I did. It wasn't the stuff I was supposed to be doing. So it's a good question, but I don't think it's an accurate one because I have the freedom to be a little bit more unstructured with my time. But that's where I try to, knowing that I could just be plugged in all day and be really unproductive. I try to like go, okay, I've got an hour before I need to go to this appointment. I'm going to get X, Y, and Z done. But I still probably work like 20 to 30 hours solid good work every week, which for me, which I'm happy. I mean, I like working. There's still times when I've taken on responsibility at a local dog rescue this year. I'm helping run the TEDx events here in town because I know that I have too much time. And I need to go and fill other things because I can just fill it all with Beachbody, which is fine, but I know that it'll leave me feeling really like a Beachbody robot. So I have to go like fill my cup up with other things. And I know that's not super relatable, but that's just, I guess, my truth.
It is true though.
Yeah. I guess to kind of like segue to like when you are working the business, like what percentage do you spend working on growing your business versus like supporting your leaders, since you grew so many leaders this year?
Oh, that's a great question. I like that question a lot because I spend like 80% of my time on my phase 1. My focus is mostly on bringing in new people, always. My Success Club, new coaches, working on, and if it's not new people, it's like the newest people, helping them like get their feet under them, breathing belief into them, working on my challengers to make sure they're like drinking their shake and getting started on a program. And then I have structured built-in time and systems for my leaders. I mean, they don't get a lot of, I'm present and available to them. But we have like a 15-star thread that we talk about business and metrics and like making sure everyone's holding their rank. And then we have a do leaders call once a week, every Saturday morning from 8 to 9. So we have a solid hour every week. And then that thread's really active. And that's like our weekly training. So that they get time that way. And then we do a lot of like our free groups together. So there's a lot of conversation around like team-wide free groups every month. But as far as like when I'm working, so I'll create content, like my phase one is most of the time. And then the rest of the time it's maybe working with that leaders thread or creating like a ebook for the entire team for our free group we're doing, or getting set up, like hashing out like the training topics for a team call we're about to do, stuff like that. So even though they say like at my level it's like 50-50, I still like think the majority of my time needs to be in acquisition and new growth and new life, because honestly my leaders don't need me breathing down my neck, or don't need me breathing down their neck. Because if I'm micromanaging them, then they're never owning that CEO mindset. Like sometimes they need to fall on their face. Sometimes they need to like work through their struggle, and they know that I'm never going to like let them off the hook or stop like loving and supporting them. But I found the tighter my leashes with them, the less they do this and want this and grow and like find their voice in it, you know? So,
sorry, I didn't
no,
want
that was it.
How many of your like leaders on your team now are local, or like from all this effort that you put into local events?
It's 2 diamond coaches local. One was already like she's not new, and then the other is like she's one of my newer coaches, and she we actually met on Craigslist. And she was rock starred it this year. And then I've got a ton of clients, and then I've got a lot of VIPs. Most of my top coaches start as like a discount coach. So I've got a lot of VIPs that are in that like early phase. Like a couple of them got an emerald and they're like, do I want to do this? And a couple that are like, okay, I'm ready to blow this up. Like I want to do this. And so, but it's growing. I'm still like, my focus initially was like on a lot of clients, and now that, because I knew once I had like some successful other coaches to link arms with locally, then they would see like, okay, this is a business that they saw this new person kind of come and rise up, and now they're like, oh, well, Jen did that and Lindsay did that. Then I can kind of push the business thing. I will say, I have inspired some of my good friends here locally to go and join other network marketing companies. Which was a little frustrating. And so I will say, don't forget to invite your friends to the party, meaning like, don't forget to like tell them that you would love them to be a coach, or like if they are expressing interest, don't shy away from that. Oh my God, you would be awesome at this. Have you thought about doing this? Or do you want to talk about coaching? Because I did, and I know better. I'm like, I've done this for a million years. Like I know better, but I didn't want them to think I was their friend because I wanted them to join my team. Mm-hmm. So I just like zipped my lips, and then they're like, Jamie, you inspired me to do Monet. And I'm like, what the French? Like, why? Like, you know, so I will say like, don't be afraid to invite them to your party, because they'll be me.
That is funny though. Not funny for you, but fail forward, right? Lesson learned.
Yeah, we'll meet in a Rodan Fields, and I'm like, y'all, come on.
Hey, you inspired them at least.
I know.
I don't want to take up your time or anything. Any questions?
I'm sure you guys are like, I just want to finish my lunch.
No. Thank you so much. This was so helpful. And I was telling them right before the call, it just goes to show there's no one way to build the business. Like there's so many different ways. And we kind of talked about this with Jeff and Doug today too, but you have to find what you want to do. And Jeff talked about the book, The One Thing, which now we're like all gonna read. But
he loves it.
But you have to figure out what you like. There's no one way, no right or wrong. No, you have to do what your upline's doing or what so-and-so's doing because she's seen success. Like you have to find what you like and run with that. You have to put in the effort, obviously, but you have to run with what you enjoy. And I think with how many times you said what brings you joy, I think that's the most important, because that's what's going to keep you going and keep you doing this business. And you're going to have the most success when you're happy with what you're doing. So I appreciate your time so much.
Yeah, and it might not bring you joy in a year, you know, and it might not be, and it might not work, and that's okay. You just have to be as intentional as you are about like fighting for the joy. You also have to be as like willing to be flexible and like go, okay, that didn't work. I tried it for a week, but like, you know, you get to that point where you're like, okay, did I really flesh this out? Did I really do my best here? Have I really given this enough time? And if it didn't, then you find another way. But it's never, ever just it's a beach body problem. No, you got to just find your own way. Don't let go of like the beach body thing. And I'm going to challenge you guys. One of the things we did at our retreat this year, which was I feel like a big aspect of my team's success this year, was we wrote vision statements, our own personal vision statements. And like, I made them all like go and be quiet and not talk to anyone, which is really hard when there's like 20 of us in a tiny space. But like, and Moira taught me this because when she was a new coach, she wrote in her journal, wrote a letter to herself 3 years down the road and said, dear Moira, and she like wrote herself a day in Beachbody Land and like wrote a letter of what she's achieving as if it had already happened. So like I'm on stage at Summit talking to Carl about the amazing top 10 elite team that we have. My kids have, you know, they're happy in school, they're successful in school, they're in these sports. You know, my husband, we've been able to, she's like breaking down in this vision statement, the what, the where, the when, the why, the how, and like the how does it feel in finite detail, right? Of like what it feels to have earned this success, what the success is. And there's not like, it isn't necessarily attached to a rank or an income, but I would say put that in there, but it's like more than that. It's the big picture vision of what you want your life to be like, the quality, the people you want in it, the things you want to be doing, the places you want to be traveling, the home you want to be sitting in. Like write out that vision statement that you are going to earn with this business and why you love doing it. And so then you revisit that. It doesn't need to be terribly long because you want to read that vision statement to yourself every day and like put it in the front. I have mine in the front page. I don't think I have it with me. The front page of my journal. So when I open up my work journal, it's like the first 2 pages, I just wrote a letter to myself. And it's like that reminder that I start my day with like, this is what I'm working for. Because there's going to be those days when I'm like, I don't feel like it. But when I look at that, I'm like, this is what I'm working for. And my goals have changed year after year. My first one was just to retire from waitressing. You know, like I did that. So then what? And then what? And now it's a little different. You know, it's to retire my husband. And now it's to actually, like I'm looking to open up a couple businesses. You know, so my why has been at times fairly emotional and ooey gooey. And at times it's like finite, like number, like metrics, like there's numbers and dollars and cents, like we're investing in a couple startups for like extra streams of income. And that's my why right now. And and at times that wouldn't have motivated me. And right now it does. Right. And in the past, like having Jamie, like not working full time so that we didn't have to live in Florida and that we could move and I could just see him. And like, that was really motivating. He's a para-triathlete. So he's working to earn a spot in the Olympics in 2 years. So like giving him the freedom of time to like earn a spot in the Olympics. So it wasn't like killing himself working all day. Like that was a powerful why and driving force for me for a long time. So what is that vision that's going to like pull you out of bed, get your feet on the ground, lace up those sneakers, do those invites, like whatever those things is that you don't want to do, like write that down this weekend while you're kind of like together, your dreams are growing and your excitement is high so that when this wanes a little, you've got that to keep pulling you through. And then never lose sight of what that is. Your like path to get there might look different, but make sure you just hold on to that vision because you're like, it's coming from a true authentic place.
Perfect. I think
any other questions? You guys good?
Anything else? I think we're good. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Bridget, did you have anything? I just saw you pop back on.
I've been here the whole time. I've just been driving, so I didn't think you guys wanted to see me on my journey.
Do you want to ask her any questions or anything, any takeaways you had?
I actually had a lot of takeaways. I like the local idea. I, of course, was dealing with kids, so I was kind of in and out listening, but did the local things up by going on Facebook, right?
Yeah, mostly on Facebook. I've actually found a lot of local stuff to of other people on Instagram too, though. If you look through local hashtags or like local businesses and like what they're posting on their feed. So it can go, like, it isn't always just the stuff you're planning. You can even go and like go to the stuff that, I mean, most every shop is going to have like a Christmas wine and sip night, or, you know, your favorite places to go to, like paint studios or gyms. They're going to have like social hour, things like that. Like if you go to those places, you're going to meet people as well there too. And it's just about being like willing to, like, I intentionally will go solo, even though it gives me anxiety, because I know I have to force myself to talk to someone. Versus if I bring a friend, I'm probably just going to talk to my friend.
Well, and that was my concern, because I deal with anxiety and I'm shy too. And my husband actually made the comment yesterday, why you're not being as social as you once were? And so I think as I'm aging, I'm pulling back into myself. And he said, I'm starting to get a little worried about you. So I did like that idea of finding local things.
Yeah, and I think that it's a muscle. Like we used to be painfully shy, and I'm still very introverted. So I know I need to like have my alone time to replenish my energy. But shy is a easy thing to overcome just by like flexing that muscle and being like, okay, I'm gonna go make one new friend. Like rather than being like, I've got to go be friends with all these people at this event. Like that's overwhelming, and that will give me social anxiety and shut me down hard. But if I'm like, I'm gonna go make one new friend tonight. And even if it's the store owner, I've got a couple of shop owners that have become coaches, you know, like the lady who owns the paint studio is like as a VIP. So even if that's the person you connect with, that's fine. But I think that if it's not a muscle we flex, it's definitely something that can only get worse rather than better if we're not being really like intentional about going and being connected with others. And Emily, what you said about going to like Orange Theory, like go to a class, like go to a fitness class where you don't necessarily have to. And that's why I say paint night a lot, because I'm so focused. If I'm focused on a task, right, then I'm not as worried about like making small talk. I'm terrible with small talk because I feel like it's just so, I feel like I suck at it. So if I have a task I can do, then I can make small talk around the task. But if I just want to zip it, I can do that too. And it's not like rude. So
right.
Finding those things that, I mean, there's so many way outlets in that way, or even just like a class at the community college there, you know, it can be, there's a, whatever you're interested in, I guarantee there are ways to kind of go and do that activity socially. There's bingo halls. There's, what did we just see the other day that I was like, oh, once upon a time I went, and don't do this in Portland, Oregon, because there are a lot of weirdos in Portland, Oregon, but like on meetup.com, there was like a game night at a local bar, like our game afternoon. So it was like a Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. I went to this like coffee shop to play board games with strangers. And it was like the weirdest experience of my life. But I love board games, and I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden I sit down and I'm with a bunch of hipsters playing Cards Against Humanity. And I'm like, this is just so awkward. But and like you meet new people. So you live and you learn. It's not one of those things that I'm like, I'm probably not gonna like jump at doing this one again. But you live it, you know, but I got out and you know, had some fun stories, and
I think that's a question.
So for 5 years now, what do you wish you kind of knew when you started that you knew now, or that you could like have advice to share? Do you know what I mean?
That it's never you. Like I used to take stuff so personally, like if a coach shifted goals, or if they canceled, if a client fell off, or like even went to another coach, went to another company, right? Like any of those like perceived failures, I used to like internalize it so hard and like think they didn't want to be my friend anymore. I wouldn't like shut them out, but I just like let it die. I would let the relationship die. And I like felt like I needed to do more. I like just was really hard on myself. I'm like, I just got to be a better coach. I just got to like do more things for them. I need to give them free gifts when they sign. Like I just like owned it all. And really it's never about me. It's not about them, or it's about them. It's like people want to change their life, but when it comes down to it, it's hard to change your life. It's hard to change your weight. It's hard to change your eating habits. It's hard to change your finances. It takes work. And it's easy in theory. It's sexy in theory, But when people come down and they're presented with the like, okay, well, this is what you got to do. You got to like put in some elmo grease and show up and like not put that cake in your face. Like, it's easier said than done. And it's not because you did or didn't do something. And that was for me. It took me a couple years to really like start to hear that when I said say it to myself, you know, and just love them through it. Because then I would get so upset at myself and I would be so hard on myself. I'd be like frustrated with them and there'd be weird energy because I'm like, do I love you through it? Do I tough love you through it? Like, what do I do? When it's really like, this tools and the systems are here. I'm not going anywhere. When you're ready, when you're ready to come back, I'm here. And then you focus on, which gives you that power to release that, not release them necessarily, like to say screw you, but like, it gives you that space and that time to then invest that energy into someone who is ready to make the difference and is ready to do the work. But someone explained it too, and so beautifully once, like it's so much easier to give birth than raise people from the dead. Like in life, like you can't raise people from the dead, but you can give birth to new life. And I feel like I would spend so much exhaustive energy and emotional energy trying to raise the dead on my team versus just like focusing on the new life, which honestly, if you want to ever raise the dead on your team, bring new life in and let the dead get FOMO and like come back from the dead themselves. Cause then they're like, oh, you know, the girl that just went, my 11th diamond just went diamond yesterday. She was one of my first coaches ever. And she was a diamond once a long time ago. She was my second diamond ever and held it for 2 months. And then has just been like a fly on the wall discount coach for 4+ years. She never quit. I think she maybe went inactive one time. I think that was an accident. But she even said, she was like the second diamond, but I needed her to stay diamond for our elite for our first year. And she's like, I will do this, but don't ever ask me to do anything ever again. And I was like, this was like a girlfriend before coaching. I'm like, okay, I never will. And so I never like brought up coaching. And I beat myself up for that for so long. And this July, she's like, I want to come to Super Saturday. And I'm thinking like, I'm ready to finally do this. And we had this really great dialogue. She's like, it was never anything you did. She's like, it was all me. It stopped being easy. And I didn't have the bandwidth to like work through it. Like I thought it was just stopped being easy. It stopped being fun. And I didn't have like that big vision to like work through it. And I gave up, you know? And so she like recommitted and jumped back in. But I spent so much time blaming myself and thinking like, did I push her too hard? You know, whatever. And so that is my long-winded answer to that question. But that's really like, for me was the most, I wish I could go back and like hear myself say that. It would have given myself so much less emotional pain and like whiplashing.
When that happens, do you reach out to them and say just like exactly what you said, like you have the tools, the resources, I'm here when you're ready? Is that like, are you reaching out to them and saying that to them?
Yeah, again, it's situational, but yeah, I want to try to make sure they know that like, all right, well, I'm here to help. I'm here to like help find this way, because it's again not like a one way fits all for clients either, right? Or for coaches. I'm like, I'm here to help, and I'm not going anywhere. As soon as you're ready to like plug back in, just know that I'm excited to link arms with you, and in the meantime, I'm here for anything you need.
Yeah, then it's not like you can.
You know, I'm like, you know, you're not in my challenge group if you're not drinking Shakeology, you're active on a subscription. But if you still have like all these people cheering for you, and I'm happy to like chat a few questions in any way.
Right, and it's one of those things where you can't drag them or want it more than they do for them. So, but I've totally done that too, or like had someone quit, and then you wonder for months, like, what did I do wrong? And it's not. It's something they're going through. But I think that's a good lesson of how to handle that.
I think we can always learn from it. I think there's always something like we can always do better. But it's like contemplate it for a minute, hot second, and then let it go. Like don't beat yourself up about it. Because there's been definitely times I'm like, wow, I totally was a terrible communicator, or you know, I didn't get this person started very strong, or they did get lost in the shuffle, or you know, I did give them tough love when maybe they needed ooey gooey love, or vice versa, and I let them off the hook too easy, or I was too hard on them. Like there's times when I'm like definitely like I'm like, oh, I can see what I did there, and then I don't like hold on to it and like get mad at myself anymore. I'm like, okay, how can I make this better for the next person so that this doesn't happen? Because at the end of the day, I can start off someone so strong and perfect and do all the things right and it still won't work. And then there's people that I'm like, I just had a getting started right with a gal who signed up when I was in leadership and with a new client, and like we just keep missing each other in terms of schedules. And then we talked and she's like, oh yeah, I'm almost done with 21 Day Fix and it's been great and I drink my Shakeology every day. I'm like, I did nothing for you. I'm like, I don't even think she got like the right to welcome email from me. It was totally fine. So it's really like, it's never, I can't own someone's success more, like you said, more than they own it for themselves. But yeah, that's all I really gotta say.
If you need to go, just tell me and I'll stop asking questions.
I have like 15 minutes before I should probably get to like motivating out the door.
What did anything change differently for you this year with, 11 diamonds in 1 year? Amazing. Do you think you changed anything leadership wise, or it was finally just all that momentum catching up, or I guess
that's a really good question. I haven't made, because so we've been a lead every year. Mm-hmm. And I've had 5 to 8 diamonds go new diamonds every year, but because they've been like in the downline, it's never like changed my primary rank, and I wasn't seeking that. But last year I did recognize, and it sounds, I don't like mean to sound like unrelatable or egotistical, but like elite wasn't like this hard, scary thing. Like I know we're 4-time elite. I locked in elite early last year, and I was like, I know elite is going to happen this year. Like I know what it takes, and I know how to like pace myself. And in the beginning I didn't. I burned myself out every year trying to because you had to hold elite. You had to hold everything in the month of December before. So like Christmas and almost to New Year was like all about like, what if someone drops? And I'm like, I don't want this to be my life. So I learned how to course correct. And, but with that recognition of like, okay, I know elite's going to happen. I know this is not a goal I'm willing to compromise on. I then stopped, I started playing it safe. Like I wasn't out of my comfort zone, truly growing or setting these big, hairy, scary, audacious goals. Like I always preach, cause I wasn't necessarily chasing a 15-star bonus because I know how quickly people can drop their rank, and I knew that would be crazy making to me. But I was like, well, my income's fine. If I missed a bonus, I support my whole family. So I'm like, we'll still be okay financially. And then my girlfriend, so Ruth Schroner is one of my success partners as well, and she hit 15s. She was in qualifying at the time. And so some of our other friends were like, we were like, that's still on my vision board, but what have I actively ever done in the last 3 years to pursue it? And so a bunch of us were like, okay, we're going to set this goal. And so I just put that out there and I said, I'm going to be a 15-star. And I knew it wasn't going to happen in 2017. Mm-hmm. I knew that I needed my 4 CBC. So my focus was on getting my 3rd CBC to 2-star in 2006. So I started setting it up, and I knew it wasn't going to be okay, this month I'm going 15-star. I didn't have the players in place. I didn't have the coaches in the right spot. My team wasn't in the right mindset. And so I just started shifting slowly because I don't want to give my team whiplash ever. And we're pretty consistent in our path. But I started getting really loud about that was my goal, and that was what I wanted us to be. We've been a kick-ass team for a long time. But until I was asked to be on the National Wake Up Call last year, I don't think anyone in the network would have known who Jamie Shepphard was. And I'm not seeking fame, but we've been constantly growing. We've been, 4-time elite isn't a small feat. We've done all the right things, but we didn't have this overnight success in one area because I've just been that little train that could, and this tiny but mighty team. And so but I know that we have the leaders in my team to be top 10 worthy or 15-star worthy, had that be goals that I wanted to put energy into. So part of me was I want them to know that they're worthy of this kick-ass title and corporate recognition, and Carl coming on my leaders call and telling them that they're exactly the kind of people he was looking to attract when he started Beachbody. And then they start crying that. I wanted them to have those moments, but by me playing it safe, I was stealing that from them. And that's really where it came down to for me. And so I got really vocal. And then I got really in the trenches with each one of them that, like I said, a lot of these girls have been coaches for 3, 4, 5 years. So it's okay, this is this is going to happen or it's not going to happen. Like, it's time to like, and I say this with love, like, it's time to get really serious. Like, it's enough. You've been 1 emerald away for a year. Like, come on, and they know, but they just need to be told. And so then I'm like on the phone with them or in messenger with them, like strategizing, helping them learn how to build an emerald or how to like lead their team, how to get some coaches flip from VIP to business building, and like being really business conversation driven versus like community driven, which is what most of our like time together is. And so we started getting really loud about the nuts and bolts, placement and rank and pace and goals, and then bringing them together. And so when we started, and then To Be Mindset, I also looked for those pockets of momentum and those natural, like, okay, seizing this energy. So they were signing up a bunch of people. My team's really good with volume, but not always good with like signing up coaches. And so I was like, okay, you just sold like 4 new To Be Mindset challenge packs. None of these are coaches. Those 4 coaches would have gotten you to diamond. So it's like being intentional and stuff like that. And then once they were like, oh, like, and it was stuff I'm like, how did that not make that connection on your own? But I had to kind of like help make that connection is part of it. And then once we started, we went to 9-star qualifying first. I put all 9 of them in a message thread. And like, then every Saturday morning before our leaders call, I was going through the drill down, and we're opening up their drill down in a screen share, being like, okay, this is how to check for orders, like how to anticipate when someone's dropping. We're doing our diamond, we're doing screenshots and checking and going straight for it when someone goes inactive or when they flag red. Like, how do we open that dialogue with someone about going red if they've got too much Shakeology? What are some options there? And just being like maybe a better leader about it. And up as like that first step and making it a bigger deal, because I didn't want people to think like you get to diamond and all of a sudden you're rich. Like, no, we all know that that's not the reality. So I feel like I got quieter about diamond because I wanted them earning money. But then they would just stay stuck in this self-perpetuating cycle of like, well, I'm just an emerald, so I can never be anything. I'm like, no, rock diamond attitude then. Like, let's be diamond, because that's like, you've identified this as like this blockage, which you'll never get to 2-star, which is really the big goal for income and beyond, if you don't even feel like a badass diamond yet, And then they all start going, and then the other girls are like, okay, like I said earlier, like, I want to, like, I can do it. And then when we got to 12-star, then we were at Summit, and like they recognized the 15-star coaches. And later that night, one of the girls was like, when are we going to be 15-star, James? I know you said we're going to do that. I'm like, well, it's happening. I just don't know exactly when yet. Quarter three. And then they're like, well, who counts? Like, who count? Because they all know they have multiple business centers, and a lot of them are down in the deep light. And then I was like, well, you guys, like, I named some names, and they're like, oh, I count? Okay, I'm doing this. I wanted to. And so we owned it as a team goal. They asked to do it. They wanted to do it. And I'm like, okay, it's going to take pressure. It's going to take work. It's going to be stressful at times. Like, you're going to want to like probably punch me in the face sometimes. Like, and I'm like, but it'll be worth it. Like, it'll be worth it, I believe, when we do it. And so we just kept building that step by step, and knowing like, same thing happened for me when I went elite the first time. I sat down with Doug Moss in San Diego, and I'm like, well, I'm going to be 5-star diamond elite. And it was like the beginning of November, and my 2-star had just dropped. And he was like, so you're a diamond and you're going to be 5. He goes, what is, and I was like, but I'd said it so many times for so many months, even though I didn't really know what it was. I would just said it out loud. And he's like, well, it's going to be hard. I'm like, are you saying it's impossible? And he's like, no, it's not impossible. And then I was like, I'm not going to stop until Thanksgiving morning. And I know I've given this 150% for the next 3 weeks. And the same thing with 15-star. I told my whole mastermind like that I was going 15-star in quarter 3. My team knew we were going 15-star in quarter 3. All the diamonds knew we were going. And I was like, I told my like friends, my family, like I told everyone in my family, like when I saw them over the summer, I'm like, my team's about to hit the highest rank in all of Beachbody next quarter. I've got to really work right now. Like, I'm saying no to social things because I have to work right now. And then when I hit it, like when I saw my post about us hitting it, I had like random people. They're like, I remember when you said you guys were going to do this. And I'm like, I don't remember even saying that, but I said it so many times. I almost was like, like I can't let my team down now. Like we have to do that because I think that it was extra accountability there.
That's awesome.
But
Yeah.
so FOMO, and then just being really intentional about helping them know like how to be business minded with this, because we don't come into this with a business brain, and we don't come into this with a CEO brain. And like I learned volume and stacking CBCs and all that stuff because I asked really good questions, and I just like researched the crap out of it because I recognized that like 5-star diamond, 6-star diamond, elite, and I was still like not seeing the big paycheck, and I'm like, okay, something's got to go. It's not Beachbody's fault. It's how I've built this organization so far. And so just getting smarter about it. And I want my team more than anything to have that financial freedom, and that's really like where my whole focus is helping these girls get financially free on whatever level they want to be. And I knew that like by playing it safe and keeping this small for them, I was stealing them of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all those little I'm echoing a lot. It's all those little things added up. It's not one thing. It's like everything you said added up over and over. That makes a difference. So, all right. I know you have to get to. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But we appreciate you so much. There we go. I don't know. Oh, you muted yourself. Thank you so much though. If you ever need me to do a call for like your up and coming diamonds or something, just to hear a different perspective, I'm more than happy to return the favor, since I so appreciate this time. But it's so nice to get to know you more and everything, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I hope you guys have so much fun and have a blast. And yeah, I'm sure I would love to have you talk to my leaders at some point. And because I know you just set elite as your big goal, and that's an awesome thing. So you guys have a trailblazer of a leader here, and I'm excited for you guys to all like rise up next year and write those visions out and see what you want to do and have fun and just enjoy Salt Lake and time together.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Bye, Jamie.
Bye.
Bridget.